So I think this is the most exciting component of our presentation today. We have some students who have dedicated some time to answer your questions. So we'll start with their introductions. They're here because they were in your shoes, likely a year ago, less than a couple of months ago for some of our students on this call. And they went through the process that you're about to go through if you're considering applying to graduate school at Boston University. We're going to start with some introductions. So I'm going to ask that each of our current students turns on their camera for these intros, and then we'll launch into some questions that we've prepared as well. Cameron, would you mind introducing yourself to the students on the call?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Kayla. And thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Cameron. I am in my final semester of the MS in PR program. I received my undergraduate degree. I graduated back in 2024 from Nazareth University in Communication and Media. And I currently work as a graduate assistant for the Graduate Affairs Office. So helping students with their application process, I'm always someone you can reach out to as well. I've also completed an internship, which I can get into a little bit later as well, through a connection at BU, which was really, really great. So yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Cameron. All right, Jiang, would you mind introducing yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Zhang. I'm from Vietnam. Funny story, I actually switched my major when before I came to BU. So previously, I received a Bachelor of Art in Japanese language at Ho Chi Minh City University of Education. Sorry for a really long school name. Before that, I used to be a teacher, a Japanese teacher in Vietnam. I also work as a freelance interpreter. Now I'm in my first semester at BU in media science. Really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. All right, Ananya.
Hi guys, this is Ananya. I am a Master in Journalism student. This is my final semester as well. At BU, I am the president of the Student Council. I work as a TA and I also work at the Writing Center. We can talk about that. It's a great resource at BU. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Ananya. And then finally, we have Gabriel. Gabriel, would you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, yes, I'm Gabriel. Like John, I also changed career paths. I used to be a lawyer back home in Peru. But after working as a journalist for over 4 years, I decided to apply for this program, and I'm currently in my last semester as well with Ananya, who I have the pleasure to be companion TAs with.
Wonderful. And then Mimi.
Hi, I'm Mimi. I'm from Edinburgh in the UK. I did my bachelor's degree at Emerson College in Boston, and now I'm an MS TV student here. I'm in my first semester. Yeah, I've done a couple internships in the Boston area as well as like in LA. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. Right now, I'm a graduate assistant as well with Graduate Affairs here.
Thank you so much. So what we're going to do today is go through a series of questions that we've prepared to ask the students on this call. But then after we're done with these questions, we'll open up the floor similar to what we did previously. And you can ask questions of both our office, but then also of the students on this call based on their experience. So Mimi, I'm going to stick with you for this first question. I wanted to ask, how did you decide which schools you wanted to apply to, and how many schools did you apply to?
So you probably wouldn't advise this, and I wouldn't advise it either, but BU was the only grad school that I did apply to. I was already in Boston. I'd been here for 4 years at that point with my undergrad, and I loved the city so much. I wanted to stay for a little longer, and I was researching TV programs and like management programs, and this one was just really great. So I was like, okay, I know where I want to go. I'm in the right city. I'm just going to apply. And that worked out well, but I wouldn't recommend people do that. I would say apply to more schools than that. That was probably not the wisest decision.
Awesome. And then how did you decide like Boston University was the school for you? Is it proximity because you're in Boston?
It wasn't so much proximity. I mean, I was already here, so that was convenient, and I loved the city as well. But I've always like heard really good things about BU. I know that in terms of academics, you're learning so much all the time in a way that I hadn't quite got from my undergrad. And the program itself seemed really, really interesting, as well as the professors that are teaching you because they're working professionals and have so much experience. that was like a huge pull, as well as just the length of the program itself, because it's kind of short and sweet. You get a bunch of information and you feel like prepared and ready to go into the industry, rather than spending a really long time doing a degree and then everything's changed by the time you've graduated.
Wonderful, thank you. Jiang, I'm going to ask you some of the same questions as well. How did you decide which schools you were going to apply to when you were considering graduate school? Were you always considering the United States?
Before that, I only consider United States as my destination. So, to decide which school I want to apply to, I would look at the location of it, whether in the state it's suitable for me to have a career or not. And luckily, Boston is like a really huge career for, it's like a media hub of the America so far. And also I have to look at the program that the school offers so that I know that I'm gonna learn from that program. I would say roughly around I applied to like 10 schools total, and then I chose BU as my final destination.
Wonderful, thank you. And then moving on to our next question, for Cameron, I'm going to toss this one to you. What strategies really helped you when you were applying to graduate school? I know that was a little bit ago at this point. And any advice that you would give to new applicants?
Was a little bit ago, but it feels like yesterday at the same time. So I ended up applying to 4 schools, all in major cities across the US. And one thing that really helped me manage the whole process was, so I was completing my undergrad at the same time as I was applying to grad schools. So that time management piece was vital, making sure any breaks I had during the day, I was working on applications and trying to figure out a way to balance schoolwork while I was completing my undergraduate degree. One thing that really helped me was just keeping track of everything in one central location. Um, so I had like a spreadsheet with like each requirement for each school, um, and then kind of like a checklist of what I needed to do and how, that needed to get completed as well.
Wonderful. Um, and I also had another question. It's not on this slide, but I know some of our students have prepared for it. For our students who are making that like career change, as far as like moving out of a different industry into their new program, like what was the decision factor there? So I'm going to tap Gabriel to address that question.
Okay, I was not prepared for this, but let's go. So when you change career paths like this, it's very much a calling. Um, you will eventually get to a point where you will understand that this is what is right for you. I know that a lot of applicants and a lot of people who are looking to go into grad school are probably in their mid-20s or early 30s. And that's when you still have time, and you all have time, but you have to have time to make this move and experiment a little bit and see what is your true passion, what is your true calling. And for me, journalism was a calling. I wanted to inform the people. I was a lawyer and became a legal journalist because I wanted to give power to the people by informing them about the law, about bills, about what's going on in the government. And that was really what made me passionate about it. So this career change is something that you should not be afraid of. You can change as many times as you really want to. Jiang is also a witness of that. At the end of the day, it's wanting to take the career path that makes you wake up happy every day, or at least 4 out of the 5 days of a work week. So that's probably it. Also, when you think about changing careers, you have to also take into account that you're making new connections, because your old world of connections is basically gone. You were living in, for example, in my case, among lawyers, and those people are not going to connect you to find you jobs in the journalism market. And that is partly why taking a master's degree is very important when you change career paths, because you need to reform those connections, reform those that networking, and really get into that new market that you're trying to establish yourself in. So that is also something to consider when applying for a master's degree.
Wonderful, thank you. So we'll go over to the next slide with questions. I'm actually going to have each of you answer this question. I know you've touched on it a little bit so far, but really what drew you to your specific program? Like what's perhaps stood out or was unique when you were applying to your program? Jiang, I might begin with you if you're ready to answer that question.
Yeah, I'd love to. So my major, my program is media science, and for a newcomer or a career switcher like me, media science actually broad enough to let me experience every corner of communications, and on the way you find which one fit your interest and go the best, especially for someone has zero prior experience like me. And media science, when you look at the program, you will see they offer like mostly everything because it's like in the middle of the intersection. So that's why I chose media science.
Wonderful. Ananya, would you mind sharing why you chose journalism?
Yeah, so I have prior experience. I worked in India, back in India for 6 years, and I've always wanted to do journalism. Why I wanted to do masters is because after 6 years, I felt that I needed to know more, I needed to explore more, and when I was searching for colleges and when I was just researching about journalism in US, I just realized that it's vast and it's important. Like people have their voice, and I love talking to people. I love telling stories about people. So yeah, that's why I stick to journalism, and that's why I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mimi, would you mind answering like what spoke to you specifically or like was aligned with your professional goals when considering the TV program?
Yeah. I already mentioned a little bit, but the professors are like really knowledgeable and have great experience. And I also like that there is a semester where you can do an internship in LA or Boston. I like the flexibility of that option. Because it's great to have the option of either of those hubs. Honestly, that's kind of it. Yeah, it was a short program. It had a good internship opportunity. I also say because of the connections at BU, a lot of the internships that people go on to have are like with really good and reputable companies and production houses. So that was that was a big pull for me when I was applying.
Wonderful. And Cameron, I know you were considering schools in a lot of major cities throughout the US. What aligned specifically with the PR program or with Boston University when considering graduate school?
Yeah, so I was completing kind of like a PR track in my communication degree in my undergrad curriculum. However, there was only two PR classes, and I really found that that was a niche I really enjoyed and really wanted to continue learning a little bit more about. So that drew me to a public relations program, and then for BU, I one of the major selling points, and we can talk about this more, is PR Lab, which is our student-run agency. PR Lab was one of the major selling points for me, just getting real life experience, but also guided in a classroom setting. So, yeah, that kind of stood out as well.
Perfect. And then Jackie, we'll go to the last slide where we have the final questions, I believe. Okay. So I know we've talked about some of this, so we'll kind of move into now that you've been in the program for a bit, looking at how the program aligns with your goals. Cameron, I might go back to you to kick us off. I know you started to talk about your internship as well as PR Lab, but do you want to talk a little bit more about kind of these real world experiences you're getting through the program?
Yeah, I think first of all, I'll just say the program has completely exceeded my expectations. One thing that maybe people don't realize as you're entering graduate school is your network is as like very, very, very important and kind of also as important as the education that you're getting. So the network here at BU is incredibly robust. Um, so with my experience in PR Lab, I was able to then complete an internship with my client from PR Lab over the summer. She asked me to stay on with her. And that just to me proved the value of that networking ability and really, all the events career services puts on really helps secure both the job after you're done with the program and the internship while you're in the program. So I think that's really important. The network is really, really great. And then obviously you're learning from the best of the best over here. top researchers, professionals in the field, and I feel like everything I've gained in the classroom is really applied to my experiences outside of the classroom. And as I'm currently in the job search, so which is crazy to think of, but yeah, it's really, really helped me with interview prep and all of that stuff as well.
Awesome. Ananya, I was also going to ask you what real world or like experiences you gained through your program in journalism.
Yeah, definitely. I think most of our classes are very hands-on, and all the professors that I got encouraged us to step out of the classes. So we got opportunities to interview people. I talked to someone who's a lawyer for dogs, and I made a documentary on it. I never thought I'd do that, and I did everything there. I talked to that person, I interviewed them, I edited my reel, and so that was a fun experience. And also, I went to NBC Boston. I saw how people work there. I never thought I would do that. I never thought as an international student I would get that experience. So yeah, it's been pretty fun. I think journalism is very hands-on. The professors are great. They'll get you in touch with everyone you should be knowing, and yeah, and you'll honestly, I would say that internships are like tough, but yeah, you'll learn something nice for sure.
Thanks, Ananya. So going to the first question on this slide, Mimi, I might ask you. I know you said the program has aligned with your goals. Can you speak about like a class that you're taking this semester in your first year that has kind of aligned with your professional pursuits following graduation?
Yeah, I would say I'm taking one of the required classes for the MS TV program is TV management. And that is a really, really great class. It sounded kind of scary to me at first because it was an exam and I'm not an exam taker, but it's such a great class. I'm learning so much about like the history of TV and how it's changed as things have gone into streaming. And it's a really interesting class. It's like fast paced. You're like writing notes the entire time, but when you come out of it, you're like, oh wow, I've learned so much today. It's awesome. I mean everyone who would be doing MSTV would take it, but even if you're not, if you're allowed to take a class outside of your program, I would recommend it just because it's really interesting.
Thank you. And then coming into our final question for students on the call, and this will be for Jiang and Gabriel. What's something that has confirmed so far that you've made the right choice? That could be a specific experience, something you've been able to add to your resume, a class that you're taking. Gabriel, would you mind sharing something that's confirmed your choice in graduate school?
Sure. I think the most impactful thing that I've done here has been traveling to Tijuana to cover the border crisis after President Trump was elected with Professor Shannon Dooling. So that was something I could apply to by being in this program. And it was really, really not only changing, but also heartbreaking. And it was really what I wanted to do as a journalist. It really dug into what I wanted to eventually become as a professional. So that has been really rewarding. Also, just days before that, I was able to attend NICAR, which is the one of the national IRE, which is an investigative journalist meeting in Minnesota. So that was also I was also taken there by another professor. So really, all of that also working in the State House program, I was able to publish about struggling industries in the whole state. I was able to publish about the marijuana industry in the state as well. So even if it says the State House program, you can just make it your own and publish and publish and publish. And I was published by the Boston Business Journal. I was published by NBC, and that really, really felt like I was taking the right steps because now I've got bylines in those publications. I've got byline in WBUR, which is the radio, which we did the project in Tijuana. So if you are, and I will say this, if you are an international student going for journalism and you want your bylines because you want stuff to have in your portfolio when you apply for jobs, I do feel like this has been the right choice. This has been really building my portfolio. This has been building my professional experience, and it's really taken me to where I want to go. And it's also led me to some great professionals who are professors, but are also now my colleagues. So that has been great, and I'm sure that people who go through the program will experience the same thing.
Thank you. Jiang, do you mind sharing something that's confirmed you made the right choice? I know you're a month and a half or so into your, almost 2 months into your program.
Yes. First of all, I think because like the location of Boston is just perfectly for for a media worker like me and others people as well. So choosing BU is like I have to be honest that BU location is so golden that I felt like it's the right choice when I decided to get to BU. And also, but the professors at COM are super helpful and they're always encourage you to speak your mind, to ask question, and they answer to all of your question really throughout. They never like judging you or anything kind of that if you came from a background of just you only have like lecture based classes. Um, and because of the discussion based classes and the size of classes is like moderate, you actually have a lot of chance to talk to your professor, make connections, and honestly, the people, my peers are great people, so I feel like coming to BU's has been my right choice.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So that was the questions that we've prepared, but we do want to allot some time for you all as students to ask questions as well. So similar to what we did previously, feel free to use the raise hand function and we can moderate any questions. I'll start with a question while folks are getting ready. We received a lot of questions about how to work on campus, what assistantships entail, and I know a few of you on this call have assistantships. Would you mind sharing essentially how you applied for and when you received your assistantship following being accepted to the program or kind of as you progress through the program? Cameron and Mimi, do you want to start as you share a role?
Yeah, I can jump in. So I didn't get an assistantship in my letter. It was more I applied over the summer, um, prior to starting in the fall. So I sent in my resume and cover letter to the grad affairs team. I had one interview, actually with Jackie, and then I got my decision before the fall semester started. So actually, before I even went to class, I was working on campus. That was like my first thing I had when I got to be.
Thanks, Cameron. Mimi, do you mind sharing your experience as well?
Yeah, it was pretty much the exact same. There was an email out like in August saying that there were like assistantships that were open for the full semester. So I sent in a cover letter and resume, and then I had an interview with you guys and an email with an offer before school started.
Thanks. And then Ananya, I'm going to tap you and then we'll jump into some other questions. Do you mind sharing? I think you have 2 positions on campus.
I have
When you
3.
received those roles and how you applied?
Yeah, okay. So I started working as a TA for Professor Irons, who teaches in the journalism program. She's a great professor, by the way. If you get an opportunity to take her class, do that. So I've been TAing for her for 3 semesters. Then in spring, I started working at the Writing Center, which is a center for students who can come in for help for their articles. And this semester, I started working as the news editor for Buns, which is a student-run website, news website. So I think for me, the process was pretty easy. I just had to just be there, talk to people, and know what's happening around. So that's the only thing I did. I was just keeping myself aware of what's happening and what positions are open and how I can apply.
Thanks, Ananya. Gabriel, I'm going to pass this one to you. We have a question in the chat. So I'll go through the first 2 questions in the chat and then come to Mimbali's question. I know you have your hand raised. So for journalists, Gabriel, were there internship opportunities with local newsrooms? What have those looked like either for yourself or for your peers in the program?
Yes, there are internship opportunities. I will be 100% honest. They are hard to come by if you're an international student, mostly because of the current state of the country. But there are many opportunities. I have a friend right now who, Caleb, who the other day, 2 days ago, I think, was at the opening night of the Celtics, covering the Celtics with an internship he was doing. So that's something that's just there. I also have friends who have been working at WBUR in an internship, which is the radio, the NPR Boston-based radio. So they are there. Also, as because I'm saying this as an international student, and Anani's also international, so she knows internships for us are harder right now. But even then, the State House program also can get you connected with these other news outlets. For example, I said I was working publishing for the Boston Business Journal, but I also published in other publications like the Hampshire Daily Gazette. You also have the opportunity to do freelance. And I know this may sound weird if you're not accustomed to the idea, but during summer, I freelanced for a bit for a paper in Waltham, which is like probably 20 kilometers away from where I am, or I don't know how many miles that is, but but it's very close by. So there is opportunity for you to get published. There is opportunity to get paid as well. Don't worry about that. There are opportunities. I think Ananya can probably chime in right now. I think you got published by a magazine in New York during the summer, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ananya was published by a magazine in New York during the summer. So the opportunities are there. You just have to really be looking out for them. You really have to be looking at everywhere, every chance. It's not a thing of I'll just try one place and it's done. You have to really be pushing yourself everywhere. Also, we do have the Daily Free Press and Buns and the BU news outlets such as BU TV and WTBU, which you can work in, and they're not the same as having an internship, but they will give you some bylines, which are very necessary to get you those internships or those or getting paid. Don't think it's lesser because it's from the university. It's really good and very respected. There are a lot of good stories coming out there. So really, really put your what do you say that? Put your coins in that bag, let's say. So yeah, that'd be my take on that.
Yes, I would say on-campus positions. I got an email yesterday from somebody at the Globe who's reading the Daily Free Press. They are an alum, so they have that relationship, but they had a question about a story. So you are there getting definitely eyes on your work, which is helpful.
So yeah, I can hop in right away because that's what I'm experiencing right now. So switching career like actually requires you a lot of like you have to make up your decision really quick and you have to stick with that decision. I know in a way you might feel regret or something, but honestly to me, I know I'm doing the right thing. So obviously the first time I was in the United States, which is like half of the globe away from where I live. It was challenging because jet lag, obviously, and then the differences in cultural, um, a little language barrier, and also because I'm switching my major like completely, that does not have anything related to my previous one. Um, the thing that I can like overcome it, like to prepare yourself before you go to school. Like I know that I'm switching majors, I will go online, look for um courses that actually give you the very foundation of terminologies, of like basic knowledge of what you're gonna do later on in school, so that you got familiar with like actually prepping yourself a little before actually jump into the business. Another thing that making friends, like making new friends actually give you that insight of what they've done before. So you actually learn from your peers and then you learn in class through a lot of like, so basically I'm having 4 classes this semester, and one of them actually give me the opportunity to actually do it's like a campaign or such, and I found it really helpful to actually prep yourself for later on because it's hands-on, so you actually learn a lot on the way. So don't be afraid of like switching major and stuff. You actually learn a lot when you're here.
You can always find certain ways to frame your experience as something that can contribute to the field. So for example, most of my experience coming into this program was actually in admissions. I didn't really have PR experience, but I'd worked a lot. Sorry, there's something. I worked a lot in admissions and like that process. I completed an internships with admissions in my undergraduate institution. And then I found ways in my application kind of framing the work that I've done in admissions to a PR program and how I can bring that diverse perspective from maybe another industry that someone else might not have experienced before. Um, Also, just to keep in mind, the application is reviewed holistically, so there isn't like one component of your application that, could stand out more or not. It's everything's viewed with the same weight. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And one thing I'll say as well is, for example, in our PR program, in our cohort, we've had students who were architecture majors prior to entering the field. We had journalists that worked for 10 years and then decided they wanted to do PR. So, I would say don't worry so much about your background. Instead, in your application, focus more on what you can bring to the table, how you are different than anyone else that would be in the program. And then the other thing I'll just say, make sure you have all the requirements. I know it's like a silly little thing, but just like I said before, that checklist and just checking things off or crossing things out once you do it, that's super, super helpful. Because there are times when applications are complete and you don't want to have to go back and redo certain things as well. So those are my tips.
Thanks, Cameron. And I would say everything Cameron's described is true of all of our programs. While he was speaking specifically about public relations, it would apply to advertising, media science. The application is hopefully also going to guide you to answering some of those questions about what makes you a standout applicant. Some of our application components also include things like a case study. The professors want to hear about you and what makes you unique. And also, as Cameron said, like what you're hoping to bring to the table.
I can say for the most part in our cohort, the most students are doing full time. However, I have met with a couple of part-time students, and Jackie, I might pass this on to you just about what that looks like, part-time versus full-time.
Yep. So the public relations program can be completed part-time, and the required classes are available in the evening from usually like 6:30 to 9, is that time slot for some of those classes. Some of the electives might be offered during the day, so there might be times where you want to take a class that's happening during the 9 to 5 workday. And in that case, you would just want to work with your supervisor at your job to see if you have any flexibility with that. But it can be completed part-time, and we do see students doing that each year, just a smaller percentage. So you'll be in the cohort with a lot of full-time students, but the curriculum is definitely, you can do it part-time, no problem. Okay, and then we have another question in the chat about faculty. So your professors, could anyone speak about meeting with your professors and how they've maybe helped you better define your career goals, or maybe helped you connect with potential employers or other folks? And anyone can feel free to jump in on that question.
Well, I can take that. So all the professors have meeting hours. You can just book hours with them, talk to them about what you're feeling, what you want to do, and how wherever you're stuck with. My professors have been really helpful. I have met with everyone, sat with them. Even Kayla, Lou have also been my target sometime, and I sit with them and chat with them. They've been helpful. I think all the professors are really passionate about what they're teaching and what they're doing. So they'll really, really help you with whatever you need. You can be really frank with them, very straightforward with them, and tell them what you need. And since they have been working in the industry as well, they have great connections. They will always, always feel nice to get you connected with people. I know I've approached so many professors, and through them, I've talked to so many other people who have been working in the industry. And every time I felt stuck, I've come to Kayla, Lou, I've come to my professors, and I've talked to them, and they've really helped me out with everything.
I think we might have gotten through most of the questions in the chat. Does anyone have any other questions? If we missed your question, feel free to throw it in again, or you can also raise your hand.
So at the end of the day, like depending on your program requirements, like for example, for PR in our program, it's either you can complete the PR lab, which is our student-run agency class, or an internship, or you can do both. So at the end of the day, it is kind of up to you to initiate that internship search. But at the same time, we have a bunch of resources through our career center that send a bi-weekly newsletter with internships that might not be posted on LinkedIn or Handshake. So that's very, very helpful. But yeah, usually what you're doing is you're completing each organization's different application requirements, whether that be submitting resume, cover letter, references, etc. Um, and then, there's a lot of assistance with like interview prep through the Career Center, even just finding, and like they have a bunch of resources that I didn't even know existed for finding within specific industries. And that's been super, super helpful, especially as I've been entering the job market section of my life. And the other thing I want to say about that is your network is super, super important. Like I got my internship through PR Lab. You never know when those networking opportunities might come into play, and that there's opportunities to go to career fairs, info sessions led by different organizations. So definitely keep an eye out for all those opportunities while you're here as well.
About the assistantships and being teaching assistant, talk to professors. When I first arrived here, I wasn't one of the people who sent a letter to get an assistantship. I got my TA position by talking to professors and being friendly, being active in class, and then saying, "Hey, would you be interested in having me as your TA?" And they were like, "You know what? Yes." So be active in class, talk to professors, go to their office hours and be like, "Hey, I'm interested in having a TA position." Also, I don't know if this is still gonna be a thing next semester, Kayla. The mentorship program is really good for that as well.
Yes,
Um,
that will be happening this spring and next spring too.
Great. So I am a mentor this semester, and one of my mentees was like, "Hey, I'm looking for a position. Can you help me introduce me to some professors?" I introduced her to a professor. They talked, and now she's a mentor. No, now she's a TA. So that can help as well. If you really want to secure a TA position in your first semester, being part of the mentor program can work. So do take advantage of that. There are many resources and there are many people out there looking for TAs or looking for someone to help them out in their job. So just go ahead.
As far as we see a question as far as reaching out to professors prior to applying to a program, that's not necessary, but I can give you the contact information. I see Larissa, you're asking specifically about Professor Luber. I can give you her contact information for the director of the program. If you're ever uncertain who to reach out to or which professor would be most appropriate, you can always email us at comgrad@bu.edu and we can make that introduction for you as well. I can have Gabriel or Ananya address this, but I just do want to reiterate that any prior experience, whether that be extracurricular, academic, all are valuable components when kind of curating your resume, your personal statement as part of the application. The faculty want to see that you're engaged, and specifically that's a 1-for-1, so very direct connection to the journalism program, Yaroslava. So I would definitely recommend including that extracurricular work that you've done at your undergraduate student newspaper as part of your application. And you can include that as a component of your personal statement. You could even link clips.
I can touch on it. Like I said earlier, we have students that come from a range of backgrounds in our program. So for example, we have someone in my cohort did his bachelor's in engineering, someone else did theirs in architecture. So again, it's framing your experience and like more so looking to where you want to move after the program, like highlighting those aspects in your application, like how you see the program at BU helping your future goals would be beneficial. And like you said, you're also taking a lot of professional courses right now in the field. So I think that'll be very beneficial. And I think your experience that you're going through now, definitely relates to something that would be interesting to see in the program.
Yep, and thanks, Lori, for putting in the link. So Lori just dropped a link into the chat for some of our upcoming prospective student events. These will also be on Zoom. We have one in November. We have a few throughout the spring. So this is another opportunity to connect with COM, to hear from faculty and current students. So please feel free to register for those as well. I'm also going to just put in our email address once again. This is the best way to get in touch with us. If you have any questions about the application process, or want to connect with one of the students that's on this call, we can help you make that connection. But if no one has any other questions, we'll probably wrap up for the day. So we really appreciate you attending this session. We hope it was valuable and answered some of your questions. A huge thank you to our current students that took the time out of their busy midterm season to help us with this. Yep, once again, thank you so much to our current students. Thank you for all joining us today, and be in touch if anything else comes up. Thanks so much.